Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited. I have a special guest with me today. Ian, we are going to be talking about stress and anxiety and just how to overcome that. And Ian has like a really, really great story, and he is doing life coaching. So I'm really excited to have you, Ian. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm glad I could be here.
Yay. So please start us off with just sharing a little bit more about you, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, of course. So I am South African, actually. I was born and raised in South Africa, which was really cool. It was awesome, and I absolutely love it. And when I, like many people in my sort of 20s, I got the itch to start traveling and go see the world. So I did that. The last couple of years, in fact, I've been working on cruise ships. So I was traveling around with my job, I guess, if you want to call it that. And it was really cool because I got to see the world and meet lots of people from different cultures, go all over the, over the globe. I sailed past Antarctica, went to Australia and Hawaii. It was amazing.
Wow.
The issue, though, was that life can often be two different colors, the color that it is for you and the color that people think it is for you. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, your life is amazing. You're on the beach in the Caribbean, and then you're in Alaska, and then you're, in Europe. And it was great, but it very much wasn't fulfilled. So even though I had a good job, even though I was earning good money, I was traveling the world, everyone thought my life was great. But for me as a person, it wasn't fulfilling, me as who I am as a person. So I actually, became a bit depressed. I started to feel very much demotivated. I didn't enjoy life at all. And it took one of my friends on another cruise ship, sadly, he took his own life. So when he committed suicide, and a lot of people around me, I heard a lot of stories in the cruise industry. And I thought to myself, man, this environment really is not good for your mental health. And it took that sort of to shake me. And then I was like, I need to make a change.
Wow.
And so I got off the ships, and I was living in Austin, Texas for a little while, which is amazing. Love Austin.
I do love Austin. I've only been there once, but I loved it.
Oh, it's brilliant. I loved it. It was so much fun. But while I was there, I met a young man, same age as myself. And I won't get into that whole story. Maybe that's another podcast. But I ended up writing a book about his life story.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And and it's a long story, so we won't get into that now. But it really changed my sense of who I am. So while I was there, I met him, and I said, well, should we write a book about your life? And he was totally on board. And I was also working for some charities. So I was building houses for the Habitat for Humanity, and I was working at the animal shelter. So just doing stuff that could make me feel more human, and give back. And that's when I realized, I was like, I've completely been neglecting who I am as a person. And who I am as a person is someone who wants to help other people.
Wow.
On whatever level that can be, whether it's donating my time to charity, writing a book for somebody, or, walking someone's dogs, or whatever it is. It's a case of it gives me a sense of fulfillment. And I didn't have the best upbringing. I didn't have the best family. I was sent to boarding school when I was 7 years old. So, for me on a psychological level, there's a lot of neglect, I guess, in my past. So there is that sense of, well, I want to matter to someone, or I want to matter to something. And so that's why I love going out and helping other people, because it gives me that sense of validation and that. So I became a life coach initially. I studied life coaching. And then I started to move across into success coaching, because for me, I feel successful if I can help someone else feel successful or become successful. I define myself as a success consultant, but really I'm a problem solver. People who aren't feeling that their life is going the way that they want, or they're not feeling that they're happy, that's where I step in and say, listen, I've been there, I've done that, and I'm here to tell you that we can turn it around. And then through, coaching and consulting, we work out what will really make them happy, remove some limiting self-beliefs, that kind of stuff, and find happiness, because success is a very individual term.
Yes.
Right? You get to define what success is. And a lot of people don't treat it that way. They think in order to be successful, I have to prove X, Y, Z to someone else. And that's completely not true. You get to decide whether you are successful or not. And when you realize that, I think you start to really live life very, very differently and start to be a lot happier. Like you, for example, right? You can say, I set up a podcast. That is a success, you know? So yeah, and that's what I do now. I work as a success consultant.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I can feel your heart as you're talking, and just for being so open and vulnerable and talking about your background and your past. I mean, it's, as I'm also just diving deeper into like my own personal growth, my own personal development, my self-awareness, the more I realize that I'm going digging into the past rather than sort of like visiting the graveyard and sitting there crying. You're taking the things that you're finding and bringing it out of the graveyard to help other people, to help yourself, and to be able to be in a position right now, like where you're at, to say, you know, I've gone through things and now I want to help other people. There's so many people who can relate to you on a much deeper level, which is why I call these conversations soul chats, is because it's a very deep level where it's like soul to soul talking. And especially when you're able to connect with someone on that soul human level and say, hey, you know, I went through something and I've overcome, and here's my personal story. It builds trust. It builds a deeper relationship. That's so beautiful. So I'm sure that for our listeners that, you know, your story can resonate as it is with me right now, you know, to be able to hear what led you to where you are now. And that self-awareness, that's like a huge component, because, you know, to be able to understand what gives you that fulfillment is something that takes people years, decades to really find out. And so to have someone like you also to guide them towards what success means to them, that is like beautiful. And I celebrate that. That's amazing.
And it is so interesting that you say that as well, because it was only once I started to, you know, tell people that I was feeling depressed and going to work just low and with low energy, you know, it's happening to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. You walk through the front door of your office and you're already in a negative, bad mood, you know, and I was like that. I had a great job, but I walked through the door to go do my work and I was completely demotivated. But it was only once I started to talk about, man, I'm really struggling right now and I'm feeling anxiety or I'm feeling depressed, that it started to get better. And it's really, and if anyone listening is in that position, it's really not as scary as you think. You know, you think people are going to judge you and you think people are going to, you know, talk bad about you or tell other people and gossip. But you know what, if they're going to do that, then they're not the people that need to stay in your life. You know, and it takes, you know, it takes that moment of you speaking up, that moment of bravery to kind of flush the toilet a little bit and just go, you know what, a couple of those goldfish are dead and they got to go, you know.
That is a
and it was
very
like that
powerful
for me,
analogy.
You know, it was like that for me. I lost a few friends in inverted commas along the way, but I'm completely okay with that now, because I'm so much happier surrounded by people that go, wow, I'm happy for you. I'm watching your journey, or I'm supporting you, whatever it is. So it's great once you get there. And I know it's not easy, but you know, it's so rewarding once you do.
Absolutely. And I think this is a really great segue into another question. So as a coach, you're focusing a lot, again, as we're talking about, you know, helping clients who are suffering from stress, from anxiety. Can you share with us ways in which we can better manage stress?
Yeah, so stress is a very interesting one, and I do group sessions where I talk to groups about stress, and it's not necessarily a group with a common goal. It's individuals that have all shown up together for the same event, if that makes sense. So it's not it's not an office setting or a group or a sports team or something, which I do work with, but it's individuals that show up. And stress is all about control. when you can't control something, you stress about it. That is exactly what worry is. So worry is a state of mind of, I don't have control over this situation. And it could be I don't have control over work, or I don't have control over this relationship. I don't have a control with, my finances right now. Whatever it might be is what's going to lead to stress. So the number one thing I advise people to do, and I've got an exercise, I could even email it to you if you want, and you can email it to anyone who asks or whatever.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
But because it's quite more complex than what I'm going to explain now, but the simplest version is, like people make a to-do list of things they need to do, or a pros and cons list. Just get a piece of paper, write a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side, write all the things within that situation that you can control, and then all of the situations that you can't control. And really work out, because the chances are you're stressed because you're trying to control something that you can't, or you're not taking control of something that you can. And that's where the stress lies. And a simple, very short example is at work, a lot of people feel that their boss is always criticizing them, right? But what can you control? You can control the quality of work that you put forward. What you can't control is whether that person is going to be happy about it or not.
Wow.
So when you're feeling stressed, look at control. It's not, stress is just this word we give for where we land. It's the stuff going on around us. And it's all linked to control, because as people, we want to control everything. We want to make sure our partner loves us enough, and we want to make sure our boss thinks we're doing a great job, and our friends all think that we never, swear or say bad things about other people, and sometimes that's out of our control. You've just got to be who you are. And if someone else has a problem with that, that's their problem,
Exactly. That is like, wow, there's so many truth bombs there. I'm like overwhelmed just like hearing it, because I just like need to take this as like a moment of gratitude for the things that you just said, because I completely agree that there are so many words that our society uses as like blankets over things. And I think that sometimes we almost forget either what the root cause is, or, what is even going on. And just, for the listeners who have, been following my podcast and see my tweets, like I've struggled with obsessive compulsive disorder my whole life.
Yep.
And
Me too.
Recently just learned a week ago that my mom has a narcissistic personality, and being the product of someone who has a narcissistic, personality problem, there was this very, very strong presence of needing to be perfect and get things right. And as a kid, I developed different types of, compulsions and different, rituals as a way to control. And, I've been seeing a therapist, and when she told me that I have obsessive compulsive disorder as a way to cope with my anxiety, I was like, what? Like, I just feel like the wires in my brain, like short fusing. Cause I was like, why did I never pieced it together in that way. So what you said was just like so profound, that like stress is just this word that we use to cover our need for controlling. And that is 100% what I was doing. Like when I was in school, it was really bad. Like I needed all the labels to face me, like I was doing different things, and forget it. When religion was brought into the mix, it was just, took me down like a whole other like negative path, because then it was like guilt and shame and fear were like brought into the mix. But again, it was like this lack of control, and I was constantly stressed and constantly anxious, trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I control it? So as you said, like making lists and figuring out, okay, well, what can you control and what can't you control? And as kind of like, for those things that you can't control, what are ways that you were sort of able to help coach people for the things that they couldn't control? Because for some people, when you look at that list, it could almost be like more stressful or more anxious, because then you're seeing the things. So how were you able to kind of guide people to look at that list of things you can't control and feel like better from it?
Yeah, I think it doesn't, it's varies for each individual, and obviously depending on what the stress is related to, because when other people are involved, especially relationships and families and stuff, you've always got to be a bit sensitive of somebody else's feelings. With something like a job, I always say to people, you know, I want you to love what you do, but don't ever feel like you can't break up with your job. Because, you know, there's a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of companies that will respect you more, that will treat you properly, that will actually give you an environment to grow and not just go with the flow. So it's really hard to come up with a sort of one word answer or one sort of try this trick, because I don't think it will help every person. But as far as visually seeing that you don't control this, when it comes to can and can't control, often, you know, stress leads to things like burnout. You hear that term quite a lot in life, especially in corporate world, or someone having an emotional breakdown or a complete meltdown. That's linked to the stress, because they've left it uncontrolled for so long that they've had a breakdown, right? Like, in other words, they feel helpless. They just, I need to have a breakdown now physically, because there's nothing I can do. It's a helplessness. But what I would say is that it needs to be an energy shift. Once you look on that paper and you realize, oh, that's right, like on my I can't control this side is my boss's attitude at work. Like, I can't control that. You need to then make a mental note to say, well, I'm going to reinvest my energy in something on the left-hand side. So I'm going to now, instead of wasting energy, because that's what people do, is they waste energy trying to move the rock that can't be moved. You think to yourself, well, I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to put it into this side. And I'll go back to the same example, because I do this with my groups quite a lot. I say, we talk about corporate stuff, because a lot of times people have problems with their bosses or their job or something. That just comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
But if we stick with the same example to keep the podcast consistent, if someone has that, like, I submit work and my boss is always telling me it's not good enough, right? What can you control? I can control the work that I submit, and what I can't control is how they feel about it. But rather than focus on the feelings and how your boss feels, reinvest that energy on the left-hand side, which is, I can control the quality of my work. So if there is a program that you could learn, or if there is a free thing on YouTube that's going to teach you how to do something that's going to make the reports look nicer, or if the Excel sheets don't work properly and your boss keeps telling you about the Excel sheets, take the time, instead of worrying about how they feel, take that time and energy and invest it in getting better at those things. Because here's the upside. They may never be happy with the quality of what you submit. They might just be that type of personality that nothing is ever good enough, right? Yep. And that is okay. I mean, it's not, but it's okay, because you are going to be okay. But here's the upside. If you get better and you invest time in, let's say, getting better at Excel and making sure your formulas are all good, whatever it might be, right? And you're still submitting it and it's still not bad, there's two upsides. One, now you know it's not you, it's clearly them, because you've made it an improvement and it's still not good enough. I'm actually fine with that. And two, you've gone up in a skill level, meaning if you now want to go to another company, you know more and are even more employable, or you are better off, or if you want to start your own business, you've learned a skill. So stop worrying about, it's going to sound strange, but stop worrying about other people's feelings and start worrying more about your actions. You get to choose what you do. You don't get to choose what they feel. End of story, you know?
Wow. Yes.
I hope that makes sense. Yes. I know it's kind of a long loop, but yeah.
Please. Oh my gosh, no way. I feel like for people who are listening, if you don't have a pen and paper out, like taking notes right now, do it. That was incredible advice and speaking words of wisdom, and just, again, tying in the person and the work, because you know that the two go so hand in hand. So whether this is, as you said, you know, something in a relationship or something at work or something at home, like this, 100%, this goes across the board. This is something that can be used as a very powerful tool, no matter what, which, you know, kind of lends what, you know, a following question that I was going to ask in terms of, you know, the overwhelm, because stress and anxiety, of course, makes people feel overwhelmed, whether at home or at work or in relationships. So it sounds like the type of advice that you would be giving to someone would be sort of similar. I'm wondering if there are other things like mantras, or, I mean, it sounds like you talked about the goal settings, but are there other things of like helping to better manage that feeling of overwhelm?
Yeah, a mantra is definitely something that, you know, I'm one of those people, I'm a very logical person. It has to make sense, otherwise I won't believe in it, or I need to see the facts before I believe in it. And so I've never been this overly spiritual person. But having said that, over the last sort of 2 years, once I started to move into my own business and help people and that kind of stuff, I actually grew a lot spiritually, not religiously, but spiritually, in terms of I now connect more with myself, with other people. And I actually came up with my own mantra, and I'll share it with you because it's saved on the screen of my computer, so I can remind myself every day. But if you don't have one, I really encourage that. And that's more for in the moments of high anxiety and high panic. In other words, in that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm about to spin out. Yeah, that's what a mantra is for. It's to close your eyes and say it out. You know, you can either say it out loud or in your head or whatever it is to help bring you back to who you are as a person. So my mantra is, I am worth everything I believe I am, dedicated to staying happy and letting my best qualities positively influence the people in my life. Wow. So that's mine. And if you don't have one and you are experiencing anxiety and you are, you know, stressing out quite a bit, I would say come up with your own mantra, because it will help you in those moments of high anxiety. And then the second thing I was going to share with you is on goal setting. I'm hoping it's going to be a mini revolution of thought, because I do work with people with setting goals, and setting realistic goals is another thing. But so I'm starting something now, because you always hear of short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, right? But I'm starting something new. Maybe it will catch on right here, right now, and you and me can be the first to take it to the world. Okay. But I'm going to start with something which is even before that, which is called immediate goals. So I know you've got short-term, which people say in short-term is 7 to 10 days or whatever. What can I do in the next week? Immediate goals are so important for people with anxiety, for people with OCD, right? Yeah. We want to feel that we are achieving something. That's what it is. That's the core of OCD, is I need to feel like I'm achieving something. And by putting those two remote controls next to each other, I tick off in my brain, I've achieved something, right? So what I tell people that are feeling depressed, and I did this for myself, and that's why, why I know it works, but two, it makes sense on a psychological level, is set immediate goals. And it can be just 1, 2, or 3, but what can you do in the next few hours that is going to make you feel like you are worth something or achieving something? And it can be something so silly. And I read this in a book recently as well. It was a book on making lists, and how making lists is more impactful than they've done studies about. When it's on a list, you feel more obligated to do it, et cetera, et cetera. But I say to people, if you feel like right now you're feeling anxious, depressed, like you're not really achieving much, low, you know, success rate at the moment, what can you set? Just give yourself 1 or 2 immediate goals that you can achieve. And it can be something silly, like clean up that bookshelf that I've been dying to clean up and I keep talking about for the last 3 months. Or take those clothes. I did this recently. Take those clothes to the thrift store or the charity store and go and drop them off. Because I had this pile of clothes sitting there and I was like, oh, I need to take those clothes. And I just said, you know what? I need to make myself an immediate goal. I'm taking those before lunch. And I did it because I had the immediate goal. Wow. Because what people also don't realize is success is contagious. Yeah. Right? If you start something and you feel successful in that task, the chances are you're going to approach the next task with a greater attitude towards succeeding in that task. But people that are depressed have had so many unsuccessful moments that they think there's no ways the next one's going to work. Right. Or that's not going to be successful. So if you have to put a little list together and say, today, or by the time I go to bed tonight, I'm going to clean that up electric drawer, do the laundry, and send that email to my brother that I've been meaning to send for the last 10 days. Do those 3 things. I can promise you when you go to bed that night, you're going to feel like it was a good day. And you've done stuff you were going to do anyways.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh,
so immediate goals is where it's at.
I really want to encourage you to take this and like run with it, because it 100% resonated with me, and I know it will resonate with many people, because, you know, on the one hand, I've been hearing people like Rachel Hollis, you know, speaking about setting goals and how she says that, you know, lists that are compiled with things that are not necessarily going to achieve, you know, like something on like a larger scale. She personally doesn't do those types of things, because she sets out like 3 goals for the day that are for like for business. But for someone who does suffer with OCD, our brains think differently, and that immediate sense of relief, rather than ruminating on YouTube or on Google, or, you know, it's kind of like that line that you were saying. It's like, you know, there's one side of the line where you could do things to give yourself that immediate sense of relief and comfort and security that could be harmful. Like, let me reach for a bag of chips because it helps me feel better if I just, you know, start eating something, versus, hey, I've been meaning to text my brother for the last 10 days about something. Let me do that now. So it's really being intentional with the things that are immediate, that helps you feel like you're accomplishing things and feeling like you're putting that control back into your own hands. And I know that for me personally, when I do things that are, you know, I will make lists that sometimes are 15 items long, and the first 5 are things that it's like, do the dishes, unload the dishwasher, put your laundry away, and, you know, make your to-do list for the day. And if I cross those things off, there's this sense of fulfillment. There's this sense of achievement, even, you know, and I know that you use the word silly, but it's like when we do these things, they're much larger. They feel of utmost importance. And it really is sometimes what like really moves the needle forward and helps give you that power and encouragement to move forward.
Yeah. And it's just that first step, you know, and that's the key, is once you're up and running and you're feeling positive again and you're feeling motivated and you're back in the swing of life, you're obviously not going to continue to make those lists for the laundry and the whatever. Right. I'm just talking about people that are feeling exceptionally sort of lost and low, and I'm not a success at all. For that thing, you need to remember that anything is a success. Like I told you at the beginning as well, is that success is defined by you. Yeah. I have absolutely no right to say that you are not successful, right? Because I don't get to decide how you feel. Right. So if you say, I've made this list and man, I feel good about that, that's a success. That's
100%.
Right? And I really agree with what you're saying, that it's just about getting that needle to tick a little bit, and then momentum. I mean, I always say a snowball has to start somewhere, right? Yeah. I love that Charlie Brown analogy of the big snowball catching Snoopy and Charlie Brown. That starts somewhere, right? So, you know, your 100%. Snowball is my list of my house chores, but you actually physically have to write it out, tick it off the list, and move on, you know? Definitely. And to take that, I don't know if you were ever interested in like making like notebooks or like notepads or something, but that could be something, you know, that could be like an add-on. But I went on Amazon and I found this, like I have many lists that are like more so like this, you know, like I have one that's like funny, like what the fuck am I doing? And I love this, but this one is like today, tomorrow, next week with my life. And in a similar way, see, subconsciously, I had the same kind of revelation that I was like, all right, well, tomorrow and next week, like, do kind of feel a little bit farther away. What if I need to do something like right now? So I bought this thing that's called Make It Happen, and it says super important, then do this, chill, this can wait. So it's kind of like, it gives the same sense of like urgency, where that super important could be that list of like, okay, well, here's the immediate before you start with the short, the medium, and the long-term goals. So like these things are really powerful. I mean, I use them on my day-to-day basis because it helps keep me on track and like really does give me that sense of lowering my stress, lowering my anxiety. So I've got something, and again, I don't know if it's Egan's theory. I'd have to double check the name, but not that matters. I've got something that's super, super cool that I think you'll find value in, and I'll also, I think some of your listeners will find value in as well. It's the same, almost like before, but a lot of people, and I used to be like this, I still am, but I'm now a recovering, whatever you want to call it, right? But I used to strive to make other people happy, even if it meant I wasn't happy. And a lot of people do this. A ton of people do this, right? Now, if you've got a lot of activities, for example, to do, if let's say someone goes, yeah, that's great, Ian, but I've got so much to do. There's so many things that I have to do. My list is like 50 things. Take a piece of paper and write a little cross on it, right? Or write like make 4 quadrants. And then what you do, the 4 quadrants are in the top left is it's good for me and good for someone else. Then good for me, not good for someone else. Not good for me, good for someone else. Not good for me, not good for someone else, if that makes sense. I know you might have to listen to that again, but you know what I mean? Once you see the visual. And start putting all those tasks into a category, because the thing is, you might be doing tasks that are in the bottom right, which is not good for you and not good for someone else.
Wow.
That sounds crazy, but people do this, right?
Yeah.
Because that's ulterior motive. But start with the stuff that is good for you and good for other people. And then good for you, but not good for other people, because either way, you're increasing your life and your benefit, right?
Yes.
Don't ever do the stuff that's in the bottom left right away, which is not good for you, but good for someone else. Why would you do that when you've still got stuff to do in the top left?
It's
right? And
so
that is what's going to cause stress, and it's going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause failure. It's going to lower your sense of self-worth, because you feel like other people control you. But a lot of people are doing activities on the bottom left, which is good for other people, but it's not good for them. And
it's so powerful.
It's such a backwards way of thinking, but we all do it, right? Because we want to help others. But what I say is, once you've done that, take care of all of the stuff in the top left first, then go on to the other stuff. If you've got nothing in the top for yourself, no problem. Help other people. If it's not good for you, but it's good for them, go and help them. But I can promise you, once you do that, mainly all the stuff you're going to want to do is in the top 2.
Right.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am so grateful, and thank you so much for sharing that, because there's so much truth in all of that, and I really honor everything that you just said. And before kind of pivoting this channel more towards, mental health awareness and talking about these kinds of topics, I was in college on this channel, and I was creating videos about how to study, how to take notes. I was college focused, and I was in college too. And I can say that with certainty, I was among many people who was in college to do something for someone else, and being like making my parents proud, because I picked a major that I didn't really want. I felt like I was kind of, coerced into it. There was like a lot of, family discussions about it. So like at the root of my channel, it was, trying to help encourage people to make their own decisions, because I also, and again, this is where, going back to what you were saying at the beginning of our call, when you're in a place of, not making decisions for yourself, like I was making decisions based on my mom, and it's because I was trying to please her, to make her happy, to make her feel like, I was doing things, and I thought that they were me. That's what's so crazy about the whole thing, is that like, I almost lost the voice in my head, because I started to believe, well, I'm on this path, I might as well just keep going. And again, you're losing touch with your true authentic self. And the farther away that you go from your true authentic self, that's when, as you said, like the stress, the anxiety just goes heightened. I love that visual. I'll have to write down the different quadrants, because I'm sure that there are still things that subconsciously I'm accidentally putting into those buckets. So when you bring them to the light and you put them in those buckets, and you're like, wow, actually, you know what? I've been doing something that is more beneficial for these other things. And it's not helping my own personal growth and development. Like, I think that when people see that, it's going to shift their perspective.
Yeah. And I said to some people that really are getting stuck along the way, just stick it up. You don't have to fill it out. Just have it stuck up in your office or on the wall. And 100%. Every time a new thing comes up, just look at it and decide for yourself which box is it in. And if it's in the bottom right, just feel free to say no to that event. It's the same as when you run your own business. You might get asked to speak at an event, or you might get asked to go to a conference or whatever. But look at it on the wall and go, well, it's not good for me, really. And it's good for them, but I'm going to say no. And then feel confident in saying no, because then you're living your life your way. And that's 100%. One of the taglines I use on my website is I want to help you make the changes to live your life your way. Wow. And that's what people who are suffering with stress and anxiety aren't doing, is they're not living according to their own standards. They're living by other people's standards. Like you, for example, you were saying you were trying to live according to your mom's standards, but it was never going to work, because you don't really know what those standards are. And she just keeps moving the bar, you need to earn this much. And when you do, they go, oh, okay, great. Well, now we need to go up even more. And my father is the same way. And as soon as you learn to live life by your standards, it's going to be a much better life. That I can promise you. A lot less stress, a lot less anxiety, a lot more control, and a lot more, you'll just feel so much more empowered, which is great,
Amazing. And I know we touched upon this a little bit earlier about the word depression, which is like a very strong, heavy word. And as you were saying, the level of stress and anxiety that someone has in their life that could ultimately lead to depression as a way of just not being able to cope or make decisions that help them make positive changes and kind of move forward. I've seen a lot of tweets about depression, and it just seems from the tweets that people feel a sense of helplessness, like, just changing your mind, or, thinking happier, positive thought, like, that's not going to work for me. How can someone who is experiencing depression right now feel a sense of hope? Is there hope for them, and how can they kind of feel that hopeful again?
Yeah, I think it sounds easy to say, and I'm speaking from experience because I was someone that was suffering from depression for a little while I was on the ship. I felt like I couldn't get off, and then I was lost, and I didn't know what I would do with my life. So I've definitely been there, right? And it sounds easy to say, or it might sound like a bumper sticker, but just bear with me for a second. But I always say to people, as long as you're still here, there's still a chance, right? And I know that sounds like a sort of bumper sticker thing to say, but the way I look at it is that you haven't given up yet. So what is it that you are still here fighting for? What is it that you still want to achieve? What is it that you still feel that you can tick off the box, right? And depression is very, very much linked, and almost every case of depression is linked to a sense of worthlessness, right? Because I'm worth nothing, therefore it doesn't matter if I exist or not, therefore I'm going to go off and take things into my own hands, or whatever you want to call it, right? So it is always tricky. Here's what worked for me. I went off and I helped other people where there was absolutely no financial gain or no benefit to me, other than it was just helping other people. And there are a lot of studies out there that show the link between how helping other people is beneficial to our own mental health.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like a really strange, abstract thing. Well, if I'm not happy, why would I go help someone else be happy? But I can guarantee you that there is a theory out there, and there is a lot of truth to that, because I was, as I said, building those houses and helping at the animal shelter and stuff like that. And I was at a really bad place in my life, because I'd just come out of the bottom of depression, bad breakup, didn't know what I was going to do going forward with my job. There was just a lot of things going on that was bad. And I just took a second to reconnect with other human beings, And I know that sounds strange, but and here's the really backwards psychology to this. If you're wondering why that kind of works, and it's going to sound strange, but I'm telling you, this is what's behind it all, right? Is when you go out into the world and help people or help animals or help something else, right? It elevates your own status for yourself because you see that you are better than that person who doesn't have food every day or doesn't have a place to sleep at night or doesn't, have enough clothes to last them the whole month or whatever. And as soon as you see that, it gives you a mental reality check and you think, my life is not as bad as I thought it was. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying my life is great and I can't wait to go out and, whistle my favorite song. It's a case of, wow, there are people in this world that are really struggling. And, which is the most important part, I'm not the only one out there that's having problems. So that's why I say, go out and help other people. Once a month, it doesn't matter. Once a month you can do it. And the rewards will be so much better. And the people you meet in those environments that are selflessly giving their time are the most caring, loving, understanding people in the world. They are so nice, right? Because they're big, selflessly giving. So that those are the kind of people that are going to take you in if you're feeling a bit broken, if you're feeling wounded, if you're feeling lonely. Maybe right now you feel, maybe your depression is image related and you feel like I'm, ugly or no one's going to be attracted to me, whatever. Like those people don't care about the physical. They don't care the fact that you can show up there with one eye and a hunchback, for example, right? And they'll say, thank you so much for coming out today because we really just need hands helping us. And all of a sudden your self-worth goes up by 1 point. So there's no cure for depression. There's no fix. There's no right or wrong. But I really helped myself by helping other people.
That's so beautiful. And thank you for what you do. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up your heart to us. This is like, I'm feeling my heart growing just because these conversations, again, like I know I said this about the soul chat, but this is like, this right here is just, what helped me get out of my depression because, like you said, depression isn't something that is cured, but there are ways to help manage the state and the state of depression and how long one is in depression. Because that was something that my therapist shared with me is the difference between feeling anxious, stressed, and depressed because of something that happened, like the loss of a job, a breakup, etc. And, depending on how long that period of anxiety, stress, depression lasts, and depending on how many hours in a day it consumes your thoughts and stops you from doing things, is when it's, it could be classified into something. And that's when, because even she was telling me about all these like different types of disorders that people can learn as a way to cope with what they're dealing with. And it was just so like eye-opening for me. So when we're, taking these things, because she said even like with the OCD and the stress, she's like, your anxiety is never going to go away, but you're going to learn how to better manage it. These are the tools. And when you use the word connection, I think that, first of all, that word is just so powerful in and of itself. When you're connecting with other people, I want to add to that, if I may, the connection with oneself is very 100%, important.
Yeah.
And to be able to, and this is where, again, these kinds of discussions help our self-awareness to kind of identify, okay, what may have caused stress, or what may have caused my anxiety, or what may have caused my depression. And, again, for the wave that like I've been on, when I lost my job and I was at this point of like, I'm not necessarily anxious or depressed about losing the position because I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do forever. It was just the timing and it wasn't under my control. It wasn't on my terms. And so for the first week, I was extremely depressed because I didn't feel that connection with myself. I felt like well, what do I want to do now? Do I go back and do another type of job that's similar? No, because I've been kind of like a dog chasing its tail. I want to do something that gives me that sense of fulfillment and that sense of connection. And it was the week later that I started my podcast. And then the week or two after that, where I registered to become a life coach myself. And so this sense of like fulfillment and this sense of connection with other people, you know, that was the whole purpose of the podcast, was to connect with found family instead of, you know, because I feel like I'd found family outside of my blood family, and to know that we're not alone, to know that we're in this together, to learn from other people, which is helping me learn and discover more about myself, gave me this sense of love and connection with others and with myself. And that was like what helped me. And it was just, I mean, my demeanor, I can just tell that from like my body language, the way that I'm expressing myself, my voice, like everything shifts when we reconnect with others and with ourselves. And it's so beautiful and magical. And like the word courage, I know, came up earlier in our discussion as well. And it's like, it is a very courageous thing to step out of the shadows and stand in your truth. But once you're there, again, like there will always be episodes, but you're equipping yourself with more empowerment and more knowledge and more positivity. But then if something that would have triggered you, maybe it'll be lesser of a trigger, or maybe it'll be, you know, there are things that then can ultimately like get those things completely out of your life. Like I used to suffer from emetophobia, the fear of throwing up. And that was something that I managed and was able to overcome completely. And the scrupulosity, which, you know, was like a lot of the religion, the guilt, the shame, all the, you know, which contributed, which I've been able to overcome because of all of these things that we're talking about, really. So it's wonderful. And I know that was like a little bit of a tangent, but it's just, I'm just sitting here and like just taking it all in. It's like these words are like sunshine to me, truly. Like soul chats are my sunshine, and it's just like, that's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's all about repetition of experience as well. I mean, what people that have suffered, or I personally believe almost everybody in this world has suffered depression on some level. Like maybe there's a small percentage of people that have just had an absolutely breezy life, no point, like, but that's because it's all driven in the self, right? It's the self-worth. It's what I think about myself. And I don't care what you think about me. That's not what's going to drive my psychosis and my happiness, because it's all self. That's why it's called self-belief, self-worth, self-love, because it's from the self. So as hard as it is, and I know it's a really easy thing to say, and we all struggle with that, the less we care about what other people think, the happier we are going to be.
100%.
Start living life on your terms. In other words, and that's why I'm loving, and it's already, you know, a big movement, but it's obviously growing still, but that's why I love the whole, you know, big and beautiful movement, because those people, the reason some of those people are successful is because they are completely okay with what, or who they are and what they are, and they don't care what somebody else's standards are, you know, and that's why I love it so much, because it's a glorified, look at me, because I don't give two F's what you think, you know, about how I am right now. Because, and that's the most confident place that you can be in. And so self-worth is usually low because of things that other people have told us. Our parents didn't tell us how we were good enough. At school, people called your teeth funny, or they said you had big ears, right? Or you went to work and you weren't, everyone else was gossiping and they weren't including you on the gossip. So now you feel alienated because it's all based on rejection, right? And when we feel rejected, we feel like we don't matter. When we feel like we don't matter, we get depressed. But what I'm saying is, whether you matter or not is up to you. Wow. You get to decide, do I matter to me? And if you are still here, which I'm guessing you are because people are listening, right?
Right.
And you're feeling depressed, you're still here. Therefore, guess what? You still matter to you.
Wow.
And
where's the mic? You got to drop it.
Yeah. And that is as I always explain things in very simple terms, and I know it's not easy because people are like, oh, it's easy to say that, but it's a lot easier than you think to become a success because you get to define it.
Right.
You know, you get to say whether you are beautiful or not. If I say I am gorgeous and someone goes, no, you're not, I'm going to go, yes, I am. Or I'm just going to go, yep, I am. And they're going to go, well, I don't think so. And you go, that's fine. I do. You know,
right.
But who do you think is going to win that social interaction? I will, because I'm more confident than you. And that's the difference between humans. It's the difference between people. Why would my business be more successful than someone else's? Because I believe that it can be, you know?
Right.
And so for anyone listening, you control yourself. You control what you think, who you are, you know, and you can literally define and redefine, you know, your whole life like I did. I had low self-worth, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, didn't think I mattered to anyone in the world, thought I was, you know, I wasn't good looking. I thought I had no success in life. I hadn't earned, you know, enough money. I thought all these things, and it was complete crap. Excuse my language, but it was complete crap, right?
Yeah.
And now I look back and I go, I've done a ton of things.
Yeah.
So I am a success, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. And I think that is like the perfect, you know, cherry on top as we wrap our discussion is, you know, how can we all become happier and more positive people? Like putting these things into place. And as you said, these are not things that are going to happen overnight. You know, these are not, it is going to take time. And I truly do believe that if we are able to do those immediate before the short, the medium, and the long-term goals, just hearing your story and knowing my story and being able to, you know, take the things that we're saying out loud. And first and foremost, it's like, you know, practice what you preach. And it's like, we are proof of practicing what we preach. And, you know, clearly, even the things that you are talking about with your clients and what you're doing in your groups, you said it yourself. These are things that you have implemented, things that you have done, things that you have literally seen for yourself that they work and they're proven. And that is incredible. And as we've talked about, although we are all different, at our core as being humans, we all have stress, anxiety, and depression. And so to be able to speak to those three things, you know, with some customizations, of course, there are ways in which we are able to become the happiest, most positive versions of ourselves. And, you know, having that courage to really stand up and say, yes, you know, I'm going to give this a try. As you said, you know, we're all still here. So there is still something that we know we want to fight for. There is still something that we know we want. And that right there is like a really beautiful movement, is just being able to give people their power back, to give people their control back, and to give them the ability to own it. Like own your power, own your strength. You have it in you. It is in you. Just fight for it. Keep fighting for it, and you know, work with these things that we've talked about in order to you know, better manage it and overcome it. That is incredible.
Yeah, and I've got a great saying for that, which is nice and short, and your listeners can use that as well, because I've used it a few times, and it's exactly what you're talking about. When you're in those moments, or if you need to reset, the saying that I always use, it's my time to live.
Yes.
And like, it changes everything. If you're going into a moment and you think like, oh, I feel like I should do that for somebody else, but I don't really want to, it's my time to live.
Yes.
I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my turn now. I've lived for 30 something years trying to make other people happy and trying to make other people see. Not anymore. It's my time to live.
Let's start anyone that on Twitter, hashtag.
You know, yeah, exactly. We
time to live.
Yeah, we could do that. Let's actually do that. If you want, we can try start that up or see what your listeners think. But it's a complete attitude shift, and that's why I like it so much, because it's my turn. That's what people don't realize, and it's sometimes too late. You know, it's like, oh, it was your turn. Like some people are 40, 50, 60, whatever, and they still haven't yet lived their life. You know, so
never
from today onwards, anyone listening, from anyone that's listening, just for yourself, think from now on, it's my time to live. or my turn to live, whatever. It's your turn now, you know?
Yes, it's your turn. Amazing. Oh my gosh. And where can people find you? I'm going to have all of Ian's information in the description box below, Twitter, website. Are there other things that you'd like to share as, you know, resources and ways that people can find you?
No, I think the website's always the easiest to go to, or Twitter. I've got something pretty cool which we can also announce to your listeners as well. Because I've just launched the Twitter page. By the time, you know, everyone's listening to this, it might already be there. But I'm going to be doing something very special, and I'm going to be launching it on my Twitter profile. I'm getting very close to 1,000 followers, and once I tip over that mark, I'm going to be starting something called, we're going to start a movement called Free Advice Fridays. And I'm going to let people send in questions for, you know, life advice, any ways they're getting stuck, any ways to overcome similar stuff like the stuff we've talked about today. And I'll answer 1 or 2 questions, and I'll put out a video every Friday. And we're actually going to also, and I've checked already that that hashtag doesn't exist yet. So we're going to start that movement. So hashtag Free Advice Fridays is going to be up and running soon. So feel free to shoot me an email or on Twitter. And I want to help as many people as I can, but I can only do that. And I'm hoping by answering a little question on Twitter, maybe 20 people have the same question, and then it saves them the time of all having to, you know, try book an appointment with me or something. So yeah.
Definitely. Oh, thank you. Thank you for what you
are doing. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you for what you will be doing. You are an incredible ray of sunshine and light. And this conversation truly, like I said, it is sunshine to my soul. So I am so grateful for your time. Thank you for everything.
Amazing.
I'm so excited for all the things that are to come, and I look forward to supporting and encouraging you, and just, again, you know, helping to bring more people to learn about you and what you do, so that you can continue your outreach. And I'm so excited. This is
me too. Thank you. Thank you. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm excited to see what happens.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ian.
No worries.